Video Barbershop version 1.2 introduces keyframing. Now, keyframing is applied to the clip editing tools, not the video editing tools. But under the various clip editing tools, you'll notice this new little section here, Keyframes Plus. If you want to add a keyframe, I'll show you how to do that in a second. But just very briefly, not all of these controls can be keyframed. The editing of a clip's start and end times, that's just purely editing the state of the clip and the clip length. That's not keyframed. The fades, ins, and outs of a clip, they are, technically keyframed unto themselves of a sort. And so they also do not deal with the new keyframing system. They just simply exist as a state of the clip itself. However, the other controls do have keyframing other than the audio unit plugin chain. This is a little more complex. I need to look at it more. I do want to keyframe it, but currently under version 1.2, the audio units are not keyframed either. So though, out of these controls, those are the controls that don't support keyframing, as well as audio shifting. Audio shifting is just per clip state as well, and so that is not keyframed. But the rest of the controls do support keyframing, and you may not see the keyframe option. You do have to override for many of these clips, and I just want to point out some of the keyframing details about some of these specific settings. I will go through it one by one systematically. So just when you're coming in dealing with luminance remapping, the VHS, the calculated, the no remapping, these are shortcuts. But if you are doing custom range of your own remapping, these can be keyframed, and you can keyframe that as well. When it comes to red, green, blue overrides, again, you just need to override it so that they will be affecting the clip itself, and you can keyframe them. Additionally, brightness, contrast, those can be keyframed. Now, I will explain, the keyframings. These aren't so exciting to see. It's more interesting to see on something like this. So let's actually talk about what the keyframe controls are. So for your keyframing, let's see here. Let me show you specifically. Let's do Presto. So I've taken a screenshot from this commercial specifically, and I am just going to replace the entire video. So as you can see, as I scroll along and scrub through the video, there is no video showing. I've replaced it with this image. That was a control before that you could do, is replace the video with an image. Some new feature as part of 1.2 is there's these new options: blend behind as background or replace video. Replace video does, as you can see, blend behind and as background. They do something quite different, which is you will see the video, but the image is blended behind the video itself. And what I mean by that is if we decrease the video itself pretty quickly, you can see the image now backs the video. And so that allows you to do kind of a background image. Now, the difference between as background and blend behind is if you are going into one of these others and say, let's just crank up the blue, you can see the background isn't getting affected, but the video is. Well, that is as background. Blend behind blends this image as the background, but it blends it into the video itself and becomes part of the video. So that does affect the background. And any color adjustments you do or any of these will affect this image as well, because it technically blends into and behind the video and becomes part of the new video itself. So those are the differences. That's part of this 1.2 version, but especially comes into play in interesting ways with keyframing. And now let me show you keyframing. As you may, if you already know what keyframing is, you can kind of probably skip ahead a little bit. But for those that aren't familiar with keyframing, it allows you to designate specific moments within your video, and at each one of those specific moments, you can designate unique states of these values for your scale and offsets, or for any of these controls. At each one of these keyframes, these are what the values are going to be. And as part of a keyframe system, there's an easing and a transition from what it used to be to what it is. And that transition, those easing algorithms, there's a number of common ones, and I'm supporting just some basic common ones that you can toggle between through this. Currently it's linear, that's just a straight transition. Let me actually show you. I'm going to start with, actually let me go back to the first keyframe. This one I want it to be full-sized. And the second keyframe, I select it. You can see it's much smaller now. Actually, let's make it even smaller so you can really see it. Now, these controls that you saw me click on, they select keyframes. So I'm gonna create a couple extra keyframes here, and just so you can see the difference a little easier. The keyframe that is selected is shown here. It's keyframe 4 of 4, and the time code at which that keyframe exists. Using the back arrow, we can select the previous keyframe, 3 of 4, 2 of 4, and 1 of 4. And this arrow selects the next keyframe between them. These other arrows are going to the very beginning, the first frame, and going to the very last frame. And so those are the controls for selecting keyframes. If you want to delete keyframes, you can do that here. You just systematically delete all the keyframes, and you go back to your entire video being constantly the same. I'm going to add a keyframe here where I want keyframe 1 to be normal, back to that size, and you know what, actually let's kill the colors. It's going to be distracting. So full size here, then keyframe 2, the size is small, and as you're adjusting these keyframes, just be aware that you can view them at any time just by clicking and dragging the cursor around on the timeline. You can see what that amounts to, and if you hit spacebar, it plays the clip, and you can see it's a little slow. So I've got this keyframed out now, and then from here, to the end of the video, I can keyframe that, and let's say we just want to have it slide. Let's have it slide off screen, and so throughout the video now, it'll continue on, but it'll slide away, leaving that background image as part of my background. So you can do these kind of flying window transitions of sorts if you want to have a static background. But with the keyframing system, it's really simple to designate these types of animations and do that. Now, something to be aware of, this visualization that you see here is for the easing, and this is the toggle, as I kind of mentioned before. But as you click through this, it goes through the different types of easing transitions that you can do. And you might be familiar with ease in and ease out, and you can see the differences there in those transitions. This is both ease in and out, and so you can see that visualized. This is no transition, which means it will be in that state of the keyframe that it was last at the entire time until it hits a new keyframe with new values, and then it'll instantly snap to those new values. So that is no transition. So those are the different types. And linear is just a straight, constant transition, whereas ease out. Let me show you. It pretty much stays where it is, and then it just very slowly changes, and then it kind of speeds up as it goes towards its next keyframe. So you can play around with the easing to get kind of a smoothing effect, or have no transition whatsoever. So those are the easing controls, and as you can see, as you select the keyframes, it highlights both the keyframe itself as well as the transition previous to it, and that is because this keyframe controls the transition from the previous keyframe into itself. So it might be a little something to kind of wrap your head around, but when you're on keyframe 1, you do not define the transition into keyframe 2, right? Keyframe 2, you are defining the transition into keyframe 2, not having left keyframe 1 type of a thing. Like it's not when this transition is not going from keyframe 2 to keyframe 3. I am using a linear transition. It is as I'm progressing into this keyframe, what is the ease algorithm that I'm using. And so that's why I highlight the previous instead of highlighting the transition out of the keyframe. And so just keep that in mind with these controls. Some just kind of usability notes. When you select and drag on the timeline, you cannot select and drag the keyframes themselves. Okay, keyframes are selected with these controls, and the cursor and the timeline is independent of the keyframes. Now, if you wanted to have your cursor at that keyframe and it's elsewhere, you can just click this and it'll snap it to that keyframe time. You can see those two times match up there. The selecting the keyframes through here will also snap the cursor. Like if the cursor's here, but I want to select the next keyframe, it snaps the cursor to the keyframe. So as you're selecting them, be aware of the cursor, but the cursor and the timeline and dragging and clicking is independent. You don't need to click this or double click it or anything. You use these controls to select and manage the keyframes. Deleting keyframes, you delete this, but keep in mind you might be looking at this this frame in the video, and you're thinking, oh, I'm at the end of the video, I want to delete the keyframe at the end of the video. You are not. You are on selected keyframe 2, which is here. It is not what you're looking at in the video. When you delete it, it will not delete what's under the cursor, totally independent. So just keep that in mind. I try to emphasize that by what's selected here, noting this and highlighting it with the yellow and white text, yellow and white. I have a note here, changes will be applied to keyframe 2, so I'm just trying to reinforce the notion that anything you do, it's not affecting what you're actually looking at in the video at that cursor point. It's truly specific to the keyframe you have selected. So that's the kind of paradigm that you have to wrap your head around when managing keyframes. But the controls are consistent across all of these, and the visualization for the transitions and the easing algorithms are consistent as well. So once you grok it, it should be really easy to kind of control and go through. But that's basically the keyframe controls and how you can set them up and see them instantly. Now, the as I said, audio shift isn't keyframed. The audio gain, keyframing in here makes it really easy now to just mute out a small section. Like if you have a real annoying pop or click, if you don't use an audio unit to scrub your pops and clicks, and there's just something you really want to get rid of, or it's not effective and you don't want to dampen everything else, you can do that really easily with keyframing. So I'm actually, let me show you what I want to do. I want to mute this section. I'm going to keyframe it, and let's just say I wanted to mute this. I'm going to keyframe that and then bring it back up. And then on this first keyframe, I'm also going to bring it back up. Now, so this is at full volume, keyframe 1. Keyframe 2 is muted here. Keyframe 3 is at full volume, and you can see I don't have a keyframe 4. However, for the rest of the video, it is at the setting of the last keyframe. So keyframe 3 on, all the audio will be at this setting. Now, as you can see, this isn't quite what I wanted. What I really wanted was the transition here I wanted this to be muted. But this is part of the paradigm of remembering that these represent the transitions into that clip. And so the transition from here to here for keyframe 2, right? The transition into this clip, we don't want any kind of easing or transition. So I'm going to toggle this. Oh, sorry. The easing methods, I forgot myself. The easing methods of easing in, easing out, those don't occur here in the audio gain. It's only linear or no transition at all. And in this case, we do not want to transition into the second keyframe. We want it to be the same. From the second keyframe on is when we want it muted. And again, we don't want to transition into the third keyframe, which is going to be full audio on. We want no transition. So by setting those keyframes and designating keyframe 2 as silent, starting here, and starting at keyframe 3 full audio, all you have to do is set them to no transitions. And it's very simple to edit and mute just small little segments and leaving the rest of it untouched. So no additional need of on some programs you have to put like a keyframe at where that level was, and then like one frame later, you're hitting the arrow key and you're just doing like a very minor frame later, doing a second keyframe and dropping that down. You don't need to do that. It's just kind of a waste of effort. Really just define that keyframe, but you just don't want to have a transition from one to the next. You just want it to just full on flip to that next state. And so that's the power of having no easing transition. So you can do this kind of stuff now very easily with keyframes and audio gains, controlling very, very specific moments. Or if you have static at the end of the clip, you can just keyframe that end of the clip and to the very end and just kill that. You can, that's a fade. So like I was saying, you do this, you kill it here, but you set no transition, and then it's just muted. So depending on what you want to do, you can do it very easily. Now, so the visualization here, this is new in 1.2. I show what the audio wave used to be, so that when you're affecting it, you can see what's muted and kind of what they used to be in there. And as you go into these other controls, you'll still see a faint hint of what it was. So if you're trying to line up these other effects with the clip and the audio, you can still see a ghost of it behind it. So it's pretty handy with that kind of stuff. Now with keyframing for audio, I'm just going to kind of remove all this, get rid of that, and bring that game back up to normal. But so that's how you can leverage keyframes in audio gain. Keyframing in noise and sharpness is available too. The real fun with keyframing is animating your watermarks and text. And so let me show you these. Now with a watermark, I have this watermark at the beginning of the video. I just want to have it kind of pop in real quick, and so I'm going to keyframe there. And at first, let's say it was let's say it was super small and we couldn't even see it. And so now it just kind of zooms in real quick. And then as it stays there at the end of the video, let's say right here, I just want it to transition away, but I want it to be pretty quick. I'm going to do another one there and there. I'm going to have it float down below. There we go. And so for that one, let's do. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Little ease out, kind of it like accelerates down. There. So that's cute. But yeah, so with keyframes, real simple. Just something to be aware of, specific with anything that manages keyframing involving an image, is you cannot adjust, like I can't delete this when I'm not dealing with the very first frame. And so you're not designating images per keyframe, right? You are defining keyframes for this image within this clip. And so if you did want to swap your watermark over into multiple frames of, like, say, an animation, technically what you'd want to do is break up your clip into multiple sub-clips. In each clip, you want to manage a specific image for your watermark. That would be really the way that you would do this. Remember, Video Barbershop is a video clip paradigm, and every clip is kind of an atomic unit that you're working on. But you could have like a little picture cartoon of yourself there in a couple different poses and swap between them in multiple clips. But the transitions you can play around with and do some fun stuff. And so, like, also, I have this last one, cursor, I'm going to select it and make sure I'm, off. I'm going to decrease the opacity. You can't see it, but as it comes, you can see that as it drops away, it now fades away. So you can do some real fun stuff very easily with a matter of just clicking a couple buttons and moving a slider. Really fun stuff. Now, with the text, this becomes a little more interesting. The text, I've actually worked in transitions for the text itself, and this is pretty fun. So let's keyframe at this point. Now, I want this text to show for the majority of this clip, but at the very first keyframe, I don't want text, and I don't want there to be any text. And so what this does is, if you're going from no text to text, the transition in the easing algorithm actually types out the letters. So speaking of, I tried to hit the space bar to play the video, but because this is selected, it just added a space here. And so this is a bug that I'm aware of, and I am going to be focused on usability from now on. And I'm going to clean up some of these things, but just be aware of this bug that when you have this selected, it's really difficult to unselect it. You need to click outside. I'm going to click here, or you can click here, but you do need to click into an empty space in, this control page. You can't click up over here to get rid of it. So just a little thing to be aware of. If you find bugs, a great reminder, this is in beta. It's available on Apple's test flight. You can download for free. And, the link's in the description of the YouTube channel. But please send me messages if you find other usability bugs. I'm going to be focused on that now. But this is just a little annoyance that you have to deal with if you're trying to work with the text area in keyframing. But so here, anyway, you can see that, getting back to this, you can see it actually types out the letters now to go transition from no text to text. So real quick and easy to have that effect. A lot of fun to play with. So there's multiple effects that you can see. It's kind of hilarious. The algorithm, I didn't plan it this way, but the algorithm, if it goes from text to no text, it will delete the letters, but it actually deletes it from the beginning instead of the end, as you might assume. So that's kind of a funny little behavior. But it's kind of cool. I'm not quite sure if I really want to have it disappear from. It's kind of a neat way to type it out and then untype it. So I don't know. Send me feedback if you think you'd rather have it done differently. But anyway, so you can do that. And then the other thing you can do just is, if it's transitioning to say a different word, and the two text strings are of different lengths and different letters, right? What it'll do is it will systematically replace the letters, and then the difference, it deletes the letters at the end. So take a look at this example. So we're going from Presto Hot Topper to Video Barbershop, and look how it does the transition. So it's kind of a funny byproduct of just this one algorithm that I created to do the typing. But it does do transitions. Send me a message if you want me to play around with some other algorithms and maybe put a control here for how the text does the easing algorithm. Might be kind of fun as a little extra, extra advanced, drop down to select. But I find it really amusing to do that. Just one note, when it comes to some of these controls, like I do transition the text, all of these other controls, the sizes, anything that's a numerical based, does a transition and eases from one to the other in here. The font name itself does not transition. And the anchor point and the text alignment do not transition. They just snap. They snap as if there is no easing at all. And it's not like they morph or do anything like that. So just something to be aware of. Some of these things will transition, and some of the controls do not affect a transition. They'll just instantly snap into place. And so, for example, like if I select here and I put the anchor at the top, the first frame is anchored here, and then the next frame, the anchor, see, it's not really affecting it. So it's something to be aware of is that, a lot of these things, like the images too, they may not really be affected, and they may snap, or they may just use whatever the state is of the very first frame, like the images. So it's a little. I'm going to look into it. Like I said, working on usability, making this a little clearer, and disabling these if you can't affect them, and they have no effect in the easing. So stuff like that I'm going to be focused on, but I just wanted to go over some of these details with some of the nuances with keyframing and what you can do with them. It's a lot of fun, a lot of exciting stuff that you can do. The background images and the flying window effects, and the dropping down of the keyframing and the text coming in and out. You can do a lot of fun stuff now, and you can do it very quickly, as you saw. It's just a matter of clicking a few buttons for keyframes and adjusting some sliders, and suddenly you have a very dynamic video with some very simple transitions. Now, I would like to point out, this is kind of an interesting thing, is if we're not dealing with a backing image, but you are scaling the video down, you now see a checkerboard. This checkerboard represents truly transparent pixels, and that is only applied if you are exporting to a codec that supports alpha transparency. The video itself, when exported in this codec, will be transparent. And so if you're leveraging some of these capabilities in animations, and you like how fast and easy it is to do it in Video Barbershop, and it's a little more complicated, and you can't quite, you just don't want to deal with it in other more complicated programs, this is a great way to leverage Video Barbershop as part of your pipeline, not necessarily your entire video editing application that you do, but doing some simple things, and then exporting this video, and then taking this and putting it into your other pipelines of, say, Adobe Premiere, or having a multi-track system where you have a video underneath it, and you have this video clip kind of flying window away, revealing your other video without dealing transitions and some of the stuff. Maybe you aren't familiar with those other suites, and the feature set is a little too complicated. Very easy to do in my program, but you certainly can leverage and layer these into other programs. So just something to be aware. When you do see this grid, it does offer the opportunity to export as transparent. Now, when it is MP4, MP4 doesn't support transparencies. So this will be exported to a black solid background. But just so you're aware, these are a little visual effect, or visualization that I've added to kind of help you understand what's going on and what your video is looking like. But anyway, that is keyframing in Video Barbershop version 1.2. Some of the details I may adjust in future versions. So, being able to grab and select and drag the time for these keyframes. You cannot do that, right? This is independent. The cursor is independent of the keyframes. You have to select the keyframes here. However, in the future, I may change that. So, keep an eye on future versions and the updates. But anyway, that's a brand new feature in Video Barbershop. I'm really excited. You can do some really fun stuff now. Very fast, very easy. And I hope you download, give it a try, send me some feedback. I am going to be focused exclusively on bugs and usability from now on. I'm pretty happy with the feature set, and so from now on it's just polish and then ship. So if you have any features, any kind of usability issues or things that are annoying you, I did move this button to copy the effect to all other clips. This button used to be over here, which was a little scary when you could be clicking on these and accidentally hit that button instead. I put a divider here specifically for that as well to kind of separate it from the controls, but I've kind of shifted some stuff around because even as I was trying to work here, I accidentally copied my settings across all of my clips and just kind of was like, oh no! So the more I use it, the more I find these issues. But thank you so much, especially if you put up with me rambling on here. But keyframing in Video Barbershop is really fun and exciting now, and I hope you give it a try. All right, take care.